And I go through this Jeep framework because big Jeep fan and love acronyms. So if you can remember J as journey, that's what you want to make sure that you map out the whole thing that you're doing. So when we are talking to either entrepreneurs or even athletes, we want to map out where we're going. So where are we at currently and what are we trying to get to? And what are we consuming along the way that'll either help us or deter us, thinking like roadblocks and such. So because of my background in strength and conditioning, I love to talk about dietary nutrition, making sure we have good proteins, good carbohydrates, and healthy fats so that we can build our bodies and have the energy to keep trucking along our journeys.
Step into the world of success with Your Brand Amplified, the ultimate podcast designed to unravel the intricacies of thriving businesses. I'm your host, Annika Jackson, and I'm on a mission to uncover the stories, strategies, and secrets that have propelled entrepreneurs and business leaders to success. This is something that we all need to be doing, thinking about our personal growth and having people in our corner. And that is exactly what Rob Tracy does. Rob, thank you so much for being on Your Brand Amplified today.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me.
Well, I can tell you it's only a couple of weeks into the new year. And I think coming back from a conference, I was telling you, and it takes me a couple days to just like decompress and get ready. So I love having this as my first meeting of the week, my first interview of this short week, so that I can also get motivated to stay on track for my growth. So let's talk a little bit about your journey. You have started out in healthcare in that field.
Yes. Yeah. So my background's actually in strength and conditioning. I remember finishing up undergrad. I had a bachelor's in kinesiology, driving home from college, and I was thinking to myself, like, wow, that's it. I'm at the top of my field. I know everything there is to know about human performance, and I'm just never going to learn anything ever again. This is it. I'm at the top. And then 2 weeks later, my internship, I was rudely awakened that I don't know anything. And then that kind of kickstarted my journey back into learning and being curious, and then going on to get my master's in exercise science. And that just snowballed into entrepreneurship, and then the excitement and rush of working and growing and building things. And down, eventually I landed myself here, kind of running a small personal growth strategy firm. And it's been an interesting journey segueing from strength and conditioning into personal growth, but it's very similar, yet there's still a lot of differences between them.
I was going to ask, so that's a perfect tee up to my next question, which was, there had to be a strong correlation between what you were seeing with people at their peak performance who are also able to succeed in other parts of their lives. So it seems almost like it could be a natural transition, but I think not everybody would go the route that you've gone into. So can you talk a little bit about what you saw that was the impetus behind you deciding, oh, I'm really good at this, but I can see the correlation. I can see some of the similarities and some of the things that I can help people tweak even more if I move into this direction.
Yeah, of course. So being in strength and conditioning, you learn different strategies and ideologies on how to build performance, building strength, speed, all these different components of athletic performance. And I had noticed that there were a lot of people both in athletics and then also not in athletics that were doing similar type things. And I started to pay more attention to this as I started my supplement line. Then I started coaching people remotely for fitness and nutrition. And I continued to grow my book of business up to this point where I was working 15, sometimes 16 training sessions a day. And I did that for 7 days a week. And I did that for almost 3 years straight without taking a day off. And on paper, that's pretty decent in terms of like revenue and such. And that was good. But the problem is I was stuck in what I call robot mode. And being in robot mode itself isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's when you forget to switch back into human mode. And you spend so much time optimizing and being efficient and just doing the work that you're trying to get done that you lose a lot of awareness, emotion, and yourself. And in that period of time, I lost relationships. I lost my own physical and mental health, and things were deteriorating. I was basically running on like energy drinks and sunflower seeds, and up super early all the way into the late night. And it was not a good way to live. And out of all the relationships that I had lost, the most impactful one was the relationship with my father, because he was further away from me and he got sick with pancreatic cancer and it made it difficult for me to go see him. And I regret not making more time to be with him. And thankfully, I was with him when he ultimately left us. But that should have been an eye-opening moment for me to say, hey, maybe I should change some things here. But instead of listening to him and paying attention, I just buried my head in the sand and went right back to that grind. And I continued at it for almost another year. And then eventually burnout caught up to me. And in that silence, that moment of reflection, I realized that I love coaching, but it's not all just squats, deadlifts, and sprint mechanics. There's more to this. And that started this new journey of personal development. And I've always been a fan of personal development, but I was trying to kind of rediscover and figure out who I was and what I'm meant to be. And I've realized all these similarities that made me such a great coach in strength and conditioning translate over into performance in the entrepreneurial world. And I've realized that as a passion-driven professional working and servicing all these other individuals, that I can help others who are in the similar spot, hopefully help them prevent the burnout that I went through by teaching them some of these strategies and frameworks that I've created so that they can continue to live life and enjoy the business that they're growing instead of resenting the job that they created for themselves.
Yeah. It's so eye-opening that we have to feel it ourselves. You are training people to be in top condition, right? Peak performance condition themselves physically, but you weren't training yourself mentally to also do the same thing and to give yourself grace. And it's a big wake-up call when we go through these situations, whether it's our own health, we see what we're doing to our loved ones or what we're not able to do with our loved ones. So I applaud you for, not for getting to the burnout point, but for being able to see, oh, I need to make a change in my own life. I need to figure out what I really want to do and what is the biggest thing that I can do to help others, not just what I'm good at in this one area.
Yeah. And that ties perfectly this week. Earlier on one of my mastermind calls, we were talking a lot about influence and how that as entrepreneurs, we need to constantly sharpen our skills around influence. And I've got a great framework that I teach a lot of clients and friends, and it's all about like connecting deeper on a deeper level. And whether that's with yourself or with others or even your audience. So if you're trying to sell more products and services or whatever it may be, you need to develop a next level connection with everybody around so that you can continue to influence in a good way, to sell products, to get people in the door, to help create better change, to create the impact that we're all trying to do. And it starts with ourselves and paying attention and reflecting a little more consciously.
Let's talk a little bit about that. You have a principle of intentional consumption, and I really love that name. So can you explain what that means to you and how you use that to help others?
Yeah, so I'll bring us back to a trip that I took a few years ago, actually, with my girlfriend. We were planning to go up to Montreal, and neither of us had ever been there. So we were like, okay, this will be cool. This will be exciting. But we never sat down to kind of map it out or plan it. So 1 week went by, 2 weeks went by, 3 weeks, months, and so on. We're 6 months down the road, and we had said, or I had said that we were going to do this for her birthday, and her birthday's in March. And then it wasn't until August where I was like, okay, maybe we should settle down and book this trip. Just planned it out, and we decided we were going to drive from where we are here in Connecticut all the way up. It's a nice little road trip. So we hop in my Jeep Wrangler. It's super fun. Got the roof off and good music and some snacks along the road. And as we're driving, all these like dirt and bugs are splashing on the windshield. So I'm wiping it off with the wipers and the washer fluid, clearing the way so we can continue seeing and driving. And then just as we get over the border, we get hit with this incredible storm. And the storm really is the kind that your wipers are operating at max speed and it's still not quite fast enough. So you have to throw in the hazards and slow down a little bit. And luckily we trucked along at a very cautious pace until the storm passed, and then we could resume speed and get to our Airbnb and enjoy our vacation. And I share that because when we're consuming different things, there's a lot of similarities to that journey itself. And I go through this Jeep framework because big Jeep fan and love acronyms. So if you can remember J as journey, that's what you want to make sure that you map out the whole thing that you're doing. So when we are talking to either entrepreneurs or even athletes, we want to map out where we're going. So where are we at currently and what are we trying to get to? And what are we consuming along the way that'll either help us or deter us, thinking like roadblocks and such. So because of my background in strength and conditioning, I love to talk about dietary nutrition, making sure we have good proteins, good carbohydrates, and healthy fats so that we can build our bodies and have the energy to keep trucking along our journeys. But there's a side of nutrition that we don't talk about quite as much with performers. And I see some people starting to talk about it more. And I consider that the digital nutrition. So the types of content that we're consuming on social media, the environments, the conversations that we have with ourselves and others. Are we listening to books to educate and inspire us? Are we listening to great podcasts like this, or are we just rocking out? And taking all this stuff into consideration helps us determine the performance that we have. So if we go back to the acronym, J is the journey. So we want to map that out all the way. E is the engine, so the dietary nutrition that we consume. The second E is the environment. So just like the content that we consume, those bugs and dirt that was coming onto the windshield, it kind of acts as like deterrence. So we wipe it away with some educational, motivational content. But the same thing where when we got stuck in that storm where we had to slow down and slowed our progress towards our goal, same thing happens with too much educational content as well. If we're not intentional with how much we're consuming and how it affects us with our final letter P of performance, that will dictate how fast or how slow we get to that goal. So the idea around intentional consumption is to be more aware and paying attention to the things that we bring into our bodies, our inputs, how they affect us, and how it relates to the particular season or part of the journey that we're on.
Nice. I love the acronym. And I love that concept because you're right. Often we forget to eat. We forget to take time to go for a walk, get outside, like get out of our, get away from our desk, get our shoulders back where they're supposed to be because we're so busy grinding. And I'm sure you saw this obviously when you were starting your business. And then you had to figure out, you had to use this exact construct for yourself to figure out how you were going to best serve and what that pivot was going to be for yourself. So I'm wondering how many times you have people who come to work with you who need all of that, right? Who are really good at their exercise plan, but they're falling apart on other parts of their lives. Because I imagine this goes beyond performance coaching. It goes beyond the business side of things. You're really trying to help people holistically.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yep. And it's the same thing. So like we could be super dialed in with what we're eating, but then consuming Netflix for 6 hours a day. So we might wake up super energized and we're ready to roll and be productive, but we end up getting trapped on doom scrolling or whatnot. So we fail to move that needle forward at the rate we're intending to, or maybe we're super dialed in with our gym training, but we lack the confidence to go to networking events, to have conversations. So a lot of these different stressors and inputs kind of relate, and being aware of how they are affecting us and where we kind of stand can be a huge deterrent or amplifier for where we're going.
When you were making this transition, did you bring your clients along that you already had, or did you see that this attracted a very different client base?
Yeah, so it's shifting out of strength and conditioning. Some people kind of evolved along with it, and then others just were sticking with, I'm just here to get better at tennis. I just want to do better in golf game. But this one guy that I worked with came to me initially just to lose a little bit of weight. Came to me saying that he was feeling off. He wanted to feel a little bit stronger. He wanted to build up some confidence, and he was trying to get to the gym. So we built a program out for him and we started looking at nutrition, and week after week when we would check in, it'd be like restarting day at square one. So I'm kind of digging in a little bit harder, trying to figure out like what's going on. Why are we struggling to get to the gym? Why are we having so much trouble sticking to the food that we're trying to consume? And uncovered that he was in a very toxic work environment. And the situation he had been in, same position he'd been in for almost 15 years. And he was having trouble to get away because he was so stuck to that identity that he was afraid to leave and didn't want to leave certain people behind. And he was afraid of the unknown. So as we kind of started to dig this out, we started to pay attention to some of his strengths and had him starting to apply to different positions nearby. And that started a whole new journey because it was scary to go out, have these interviews, and nothing good ever comes simple. So it was rejection after rejection. And he comes to me and he's like, man, we've been at this for a while, Rob. I don't know if I can take another rejection. I think I'm doomed to stay at the same spot forever. I told him, man, just like those early morning gym sessions, you've been now consistently going to the gym, working out at 5 a.m. Most people don't even get up until hours later, but you're there, you're working out, dude, you're resilient. These no's are just yeses down the road. Like you're building for this. And he kept going. And the next week when we followed up, he goes, Rob, I did it. I got a yes. Somebody sent me an offer. And I was like, congratulations, dude. What's the matter? Why are you so upset? He goes, the two places that I wanted to go to both sent me an offer. So now I don't know which one to take. And I was like, dude, that's the best problem to have. Congratulations on that. And that became like an easy way for him to get into because he also really wanted to start working back on his writing. He'd been working on a novel for 10 years and this new position gave him freedom to kind of lean into something. And it was crazy because he just came as a weight loss fitness individual. And now we're building this. He's finishing his book. He's connecting with new people, new audiences, and totally changed his life around. So long-winded answer, but yes, some people have transitioned over into the performance world and others kind of stayed in the training sector.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. What a great story. What a great case study.
Thank you. Yeah, he was a hardworking guy, so I appreciate him and everybody else who has all the great success. It makes me feel good too, because it shows that what I've been building and working towards really works and people other than myself are seeing the success.
So what does that day-to-day look like for you now? Are you still working with those clients who only want physical coaching? Or have you transitioned fully into mindset and helping people with their overall performance in all aspects of their life?
It's a blend of a little bit of both. So there's a couple clients in the fitness realm that I look up to as kind of like mentors, and being able to connect with them on a weekly basis in the gym is sort of like going to the barbershop, I guess. It would be like being able to talk shop and see what's going on in their business, in their worlds, and they're running massive organizations. So I get to speak with them and I get to see some insight on where they're at and what they're doing. And that helps keep me grounded, keep me motivated moving forward. And I love to just being in that environment, just still put in the hard work. And because it is similar, but it's still different from the hard work you put in the gym. So I love being in that environment. So outside of that, it's still calls all day long, going to conferences, podcasts, shooting content, connecting with people to create collaborations for different events and workshops. And it's a different world, but it's not as draining as it used to be when I was like working 15-hour days. Now it's motivating and energizing each day.
Yeah, which is a really, really nice transition. So tell us a little bit, you mentioned going on podcasts, shooting content. What would you say is the biggest way that you've been able to draw in new clients for your overall coaching business?
The best way, I think, is word of mouth. I think one of my mentors along the road really kind of drilled in on how to ask for more referrals in a way that doesn't seem so high pressure. Because I feel like a lot of people are like, "Oh, I don't know how to ask for a referral. It's kind of weird." And my mentor put it in a really interesting way, because he told me that so many people ask for referrals. And when you are asking somebody for referral straight up, some people can do it. And then most of the people, they'll feel sleazy or salesy. And you feel that way because you're essentially asking the other individual to do the selling for you. It's like, hey, who do you know that wants to give me money? And we don't typically keep filing cabinets in our mind about people who want to give other people money. So it's like, it's difficult that way. And I realized that it takes a lot of stress away and a lot of pressure just asking to be introduced to cool people, just to be connected with. And it doesn't necessarily have to come from like a sales coach to client kind of perspective, but let me connect with somebody. Let me genuinely see what they're working on. Let me actually listen to what they're going through. What are some of the challenges? What are they excited about? Then offer anything that I have, any kind of resources, connections, any way. And then at least sharing what it is that I do. And sometimes people are interested in hearing more about the coaching and or different workshops and things, and other people are just genuinely excited to get together and connect. And I've taken that mindset into a lot of conferences and workshops and networking events. And I don't go in to just look to see who I can sell to. I go see who I'd be interested to invite to sushi. Who would want to come and sit down and have lunch with me and talk about stuff outside of business. And I think building the relationship before you need it for a sale is way more powerful than going out and trying to muscle your business growth.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I love that reframing of like, who do I want to go to sushi with? You know, usually we think, who do you want to go to coffee with? But sushi is an even deeper kind of relationship, I think.
Yeah.
So you want to be with somebody who really appreciates that time and is really, you have to be really excited to be there where coffee is coffee, right? So that shows a lot of intentionality on your part about the kind of people you want to surround yourself and the kind of energy that you're putting out there.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. And earlier you mentioned having a supplement line. So do you still have that? And do you have other ancillary businesses that you've built as outgrowths of either your performance, athletic coaching or your mindset and business coaching?
Yeah, the supplement line still exists. I don't do very much marketing for that, but it's a pretty decent, steady recurring revenue from clients who've come through. And that really started from me back in the fitness world and not really, or getting tired, I guess, of referring to other people. And I was like, oh, let me spend some time to kind of research this. Let me find some manufacturers, see where they source their ingredients and really put together a good quality product. And I started this back in 2017, so almost 10 years ago. And it was a lot of work to kind of piece things together, minimum order quantities and all this stuff. And so now that it's kind of set up on its path, it's not like something where you just set it and forget it. You still have to pay attention and still work through the orders and things like that. But that's not a primary focus and is low requirement enough where I can continue to do other things like the podcasting and speaking and leading workshops. So yeah, there's still a lot of different hats to be worn in the world of Rob. And I think that it all is kind of working together now in seamless area.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I think, one of the best things that I've seen for myself is the same. I'm doing a few different things, but they're all connected. And when you can find that connection point, everything else flows a lot more easily.
Yeah.
You have somebody who comes to you and they're super overwhelmed. They need to work kind of like your client who came to work with you on weight loss, but actually needed other work as well, mindset shifts, peak performance work. What are some of the first things that you take them through as exercises or evaluations to figure out what exactly you want to do with them and how you want to help them shift and reframe what they're thinking and what they're doing?
Yeah. So when I bring somebody through the prime performance process, there's 6 principles that we kind of run through, and everybody kind of comes into the process on a different stage or different principle, really, where they might need to spend some more time focusing on. But for the most part, everybody comes in and we just do a little assessment, kind of like, hey, where are we at currently? What have we been working on? And where is it that we're really trying to get to? And more times than not, that is one of the hardest parts, is just getting clear on like, okay, where are we actually trying to get to and why? And who is the person that we're doing it for? One of my mentors also gives a lot of credit to Simon Sinek about starting with why. But one of my mentors says that if you can start with who instead of why, that digs a little bit deeper. So if you consider yourself or your future self or your kids or your future kids, and you use that as the foundation, that leads to a better why or stronger why, which then leads it down the road to more. So I think kind of game planning it out, bringing awareness to where we're at, then doing an audit on which of the principles needs the most focus right now, and then spending time going through a couple different exercises and strategies on how to bring up those principle marks for us.
Nice. I keep saying, I like this that you said, I like this other thing that you said, but it's true. The reframings that you're bringing to the table, thinking about the who, because like you said, when I think about my own life, my daughter, she's going to graduate from high school this year. She has a totally different career path, not going to do anything that mom does, right? But she is my biggest who, and everything I do is really to make her proud and also to make sure that she goes off on a really great life path while I'm doing the things that I love to do and how I'm doing them and serving as a good role model for her, right? And that does mean I sometimes can't take her to school. She make her drive herself since she can do that, even though she'd rather have mom there. But she gets to see me doing the work that I love, being able to, have us live a certain lifestyle so that she can be comfortable and she can focus on school and all the things that she does. So I really love the fact that you brought that up, because I think we all need to think about, who do we spend time with? Who do we want to spend time with? Who is the most important to us, whether it's for our business or our personal lives? And then how do we shape everything else around that to still have the success that we want, but be able to do it within our constraints, or to building up those muscles, whether it's physical or mental.
Yeah, so true. And I think another great point to kind of put or bring attention to there is the communication once you kind of identify who that is, because I imagine having those conversations with your daughter, she understands that you are making a lot of different sacrifices, and that clears away a lot of false expectations or understanding. And same thing with clients too, is like making sure that everybody knows what the expectations are and what the foreseeable future is, or what the map kind of is, again, because that allows for better conversation, better influence, better results all around, I believe.
Mm-hmm, for sure. What is a typical client coming to you to solve today? Is it a specific type of industry person, certain area in their business, or mostly CEO level and entrepreneurs, middle management?
Yeah, so most of the people that are kind of coming into my world, or at least engaging in my content and like reaching out for questions, tend to be those purpose-driven professionals, is what I like to call them, because the individuals who've really built a skill, and the skill has helped them excel in their industry. So, for example, myself was coaching in around the strength and conditioning realm. But for some people, it could be like bookkeeping, accounting, or it could be like a chef or some skill base where they're doing something and they get really good at it. And then they get so good that they're feeling confident about stepping out into the world and, hey, I could make a little bit more money if I did this on my own. And then when they make that move into entrepreneurship, they start to create the second job for themselves. And then they've got this boss that they can't ever get rid of, and they're pushing through. And the biggest thing that people come to me with is they're frustrated because they're stuck and they've been doing everything and they're not quite seeing the momentum that they've been expecting. And the through line for prime performance coaching really is awareness to generate more momentum moving forward. So each of the principles shows us where and different strategies that we can move forward so that we can get that momentum wheel rolling.
When you just mentioned that person who's trying to move into entrepreneurship starts their job that they really want as a side hustle, and obviously you have a podcast, Surviving the Side Hustle. So I was like, all right, let's talk about that. Talk about the podcast. When did you start it? How long have you been doing it? And did it help you really grow your business?
Yeah, so started the podcast a few years ago, I would say. So I'm trying to do math. So we were doing one episode a week, and we did that for about 120 episodes. And then we decided to kind of shifting it, and now we're doing 2 episodes a week. And we just released episode 153 this week. So we're moving along. It's going pretty smoothly. And each week during the guest interview, we bring in different solopreneur, entrepreneur, individual, and their entrepreneurial journey. And we talk with everybody from very early stages, or even beginning, like starting with the idea to selling and moving on to different projects. And we dig into their story, their struggles, and their secrets to high performance so that the audience and everybody listening can relate a little bit, hopefully get inspired by some of the stories that they're sharing, but then also take some tangible take homes, like, all right, what can I implement? What did this guy? Oh, this guy's in the same industry as me. Oh, he did something like that. And all this is meant to create this almost community where the listeners know the guests coming on, they can connect with them. And then hopefully they connect afterwards via social media.
And when you are interviewing people, I'm sure, like myself, I'm relating to a lot of the things that you're saying. I'm sure you do the same thing. And have you found that the people that you're bringing on also sometimes become clients or become people that you want to hire? Because I've done both. I've hired people who've been on my show as coaches. And then I've also had people hire me for things. And to me, being able to have these conversations is one of the best parts of my day, because I'm getting to meet somebody who can give me really great advice while giving my audience really great advice. Another show I can listen to, right? other things. Oh, maybe I need supplements. I can look into your supplement line. But it excites me to be able to have these conversations. I imagine the same thing's happening with you, and that you've been able to see it grow into thinking about other parts of your business.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think because collaboration is such a strong pillar to my world and everything that I'm a part of, I get super excited. I almost always want to dive into everybody's programs and things that they bring on the show, and vice versa. People are constantly like checking out more, joining the mastermind, doing some of the workshops and such. And it's fun because I think going back to what we were talking earlier about relationship and building the relationship before needing to make a sale, I think that becomes the powerful part, and which is part of why the podcasting is so beautiful, because we get to know each other and learn a little bit more and develop that relationship kind of on like a expedited process. We can get to learn each other's struggles and some of their priorities and things that they're looking to build together, and using this as a platform for that has been powerful. And I think a lot of people are benefiting all around.
Yeah, amazing. All right, so you have the podcast, which offers value, and people can kind of get to know you as well if they're looking at your services. You have your performance business, right? You have supplements. You said, and in your business, you said you have coaching, you have masterminds. What are all of the different things that people can do, or what will they see when they go to your website?
Yeah, so on the website, it's pretty much that there. It's the house for everything. So you've got the podcast, you've got speaking opportunities and things that I've got coming up, and workshops. There's one-on-one coaching. There's the mastermind group coaching. And the mastermind is the biggest project that we kind of brought to the public this last year. It's been about 6 months in open to public, and that originally started just as like a small group coaching for my clients, and then figured like, okay, we can bring this out to the bigger world and get more people involved in this. And it's a huge accountability group. We touch on a different principle each week when we meet for our calls, little homework assignments for each other. We hold each other accountable, and then we connect and grow and collaborate together.
And we have a couple things that you offer. One is a free call. You also have a PDF, I believe. So is it okay for us to link to both of those in the show notes so that people can get the 5 keys to clarity and momentum, but also schedule a call if they want to learn more about you and, side hustle strategies and beyond?
Yeah, of course. And like, if that's, like I said earlier, the biggest thing that I've been helping with people is that frustration, kind of getting unstuck and kind of beating your head against the wall and asking yourself, like, why the heck is this not happening? Like, how come I see so-and-so on Instagram with the Lamborghinis and such, and why aren't I moving the needle forward quite as well as I had hoped to? And that's what that free call really is. It's a strategy session to kind of sit down and teach the prime performance framework, saying, hey, this is what I would recommend. This is where I see you at. This is how I would take this approach here. And then at the end of the conversation, it just moves forward and seeing how things go. At least you walking away with tangible take homes on like, hey, this is what Rob said. This is what the prime performance coaching process is, and implementing it yourself or moving on with other people.
Nice. I want to go back to that question we asked of, before you ask yourself why, ask yourself who. Start there. Because I'm just thinking, if people are getting frustrated, right, they're feeling like they're on the verge of burnout, even it is only the beginning of the calendar year, but there's a lot going on in the world, a lot going in our lives. So I can imagine people have some frustrations. Take a step back, maybe look through, find out some ways to bring clarity to yourself, schedule a call with Rob, look through, listen to the podcast, look at materials, do everything you can just to keep yourself feeling grounded and sane and even, and to be able to ask yourself, who are you doing this for? And then go to the other questions and get that clarity framework. So Rob, thank you for really bringing this home, making us think about the things that are really important that we need to think when we're going through these issues in our own heads, in our own lives, looking at our calendars, wondering why they're overbooked, getting frustrated over not having time with our loved ones because we are so busy, whether it's with your main job, the side hustle, and everything in between. So again, we'll link to a couple of your great resources in the show notes. I also wanted to ask, do you have one last piece of advice that you'd like to leave the audience with?
Of course. And well, I want to say thank you for having me on today. I'm glad that we were able to connect, and hopefully everybody here listening got some piece of advice that they feel was helpful or beneficial. And I encourage everybody, at the very least, to reach out on social media, good, bad, or indifferent about any of things that I shared today. But if I were to leave with one last thing, I would just say, kind of like what you said there, is feeling overwhelmed, feeling a lot of different things, feeling frustrated, beginning of the year. Maybe we're already feeling kind of behind. Take a deep breath and just pause for a second and just reflect. Think about where we're moving. Think about that who. Who do we want to become? And just breathe and settle for a second. Things are going to be good. We're going to keep moving forward. And 2026 is going to be a great year.
Awesome. And do you have a favorite quote, mantra, verse, poem, family motto?
I would say one of the funniest ones that I always kind of say, this is like an inside joke sort of thing, but I used to always say, you snooze, you lose. And that was always like a funny thing for me growing up. And I held that really true to myself. And because I was always that individual that was like, okay, I'll sleep when I'm dead kind of thing. And like, oh, let me just keep going. And to this day, I still get a little bit anxious when I'm on vacation or sitting around, because I feel like there's so many other things that I need to do. But it's not true. You can still win and relax for a little bit and breathe. And I think that's been the new approach that I've taken over the past 5 or 6 years. And I think that sometimes slowing down is the fastest way to move forward.
Fantastic. You're preaching to the choir here. So thank you, Rob, for giving us that renewed encouragement, including myself. Just a reminder that it's okay to slow down and be really intentional about how you're going to move forward. So with that, thank you to everybody who is watching this episode or listening to it. Check out Rob, whether, again, you go to his website or you follow him on social media. I'll be back again with another amazing guest to share their story, their journey, a little bit of information to help make your life and your day a little bit better. And with that, have a beautiful day until then. Thanks for listening or watching to this episode of Your Brand Amplified. Don't forget to leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast listening platform. And if you want to learn more, check us out at yourbrandamplified.com.